Alright, we're up. And John is not joining us tonight.
Okay, will he catch up later? Is that what he'll do? Or
Yeah, he'll be at our next one then.
okay.
So we're 6:32. We don't have to do any motions or anything. We just started budget workshop
Just the budget workshop.
already.
So, welcome to Budget Workshop Municipal Budgeting 101. Jack, you've been doing this for 2,000 years. This is all old news for you. I'm not gonna do my budget the same way Terry did. As I was just telling Council Chair, Council Jess, you know, basically, if you can do day-to-day functions, get dressed, go to work, come home, be safe, eat dinner, go back to bed, you'll understand that budget. Very simple. So the first thing I want to do, because we got some new people, I want to quickly go over the budget process, how it works. And you guys will know this, but I want you to understand this. So essentially what this does, this is not all the metric CGLs, this is just an overshot, okay? This is how we get to, where we want to get to is the mill rate. We don't get to that till August. What we're dealing with tonight is the total expense budget, the expense budget. That's where we're basically talking about tonight. So how this works is in the end, we take the total expense budget that you approve, that we send to the taxpayers, and then and I'm using hypothetical numbers here, 500,000, we minus the total revenue, apply the total revenue to that. This is just a snapshot of how the equation works. We take that balance forwarded, that would be the base tax required. Then in a nutshell, we take the property valuation, the new property valuation and any additional property valuation we get. We would apply that to the base tax required to reduce it. So in this case, it was 80,000. We'd only need to collect 320,000. We add back in what they call the overlay. The overlay is basically it's a safety net, so people don't pay their taxes. We'd add whatever we decide, the assessors and us, who decide what that is. We add the overlay back in, and that's the equation number that makes up the final sum of what we have to collect. So we take that mill rate, that number, divide it by the number of taxpayers, and take it out to in an equation per thousand per the evaluation of property. That's the equation. Tonight, what we're working on is total expense and revenue. That's all we're doing tonight. The rest of it, we need things like the school budget, we need the county tax, and all that stuff. And then we need the valuation, which we don't have tonight. We won't get that from Verna. She starts the assessment, closing out the assessment process after April 1st. And that carries on till mid-May. We get a more solid number. However, we have been picking her brain, and I, for budget purposes, got that. There are a couple pieces tonight that I'll be talking to you on, and tonight is just a general overview. Tonight, we don't want to get into deep detail. It's going to be a general overview, give you my perspective on how we created the budget, what we did, give it to you. You can take this, go back, digest it. In 2 weeks, we'll come back, and we'll be glad to answer all and any questions and make any decisions or changes you'd like. From here on out, this is no longer my budget. This is now the council's budget. It becomes your budget to approve to send to the warrant. So I am submitting to you my budget based on meeting with the town department heads. Looking at months of projections, looking in the glass ball, so to speak, going forward, working with Jen. This is, what revision number are we on?
7.
7 revisions. So we've made many changes, and there'll be more changes to go. No questions, a dumb question. So what I'd like to ask you to do, how I've always done this, I gave you a list of, I gave you a blank sheet that says budget questions. As we go through, if you get a question or a couple, something, would you just jot a note down? Because I've encountered in the past, I've had the council members ask a question, and then for some reason we get sidetracked with another question. Eventually that question never got answered, and then 6 months later, the council member comes back to you, Tim, you never did tell me why we have to have streetlights on. Why are fire hydrants, no water on, whatever. So that being said, if everybody's okay with that process, I will begin.
Just the one question. Is your goal to get through the stack of paper tonight?
I will get that through the stack of paper in about 35 minutes, I hope.
Okay.
So we're, again, if you could jot down your questions, that would be helpful. Obviously, I mean, I'm not telling you can't ask questions, which one, but I'm not going by, I've done it before, we've done it by, tonight we did one department or 2 or 3 departments, and we come back. I'm giving you an overview tonight. Digest that, take it home, think about it, look at all the numbers and the facts. We come back 2 weeks later, it'll look different to you, may have different questions. That's the best way to do this from my perspective.
Madam Chair. If I could just speak to the council. I find it helpful to date the sheets of paper as we go through and review them. That way there, when we get, it's not uncommon to have 2 or 3 iterations as we go through the process. So it can get very confusing quickly, because if it's not dated, I understand the revisions noted on there, but if it's not dated, then you can very easily discard the past ones, or the other thing is make any notes on them to be able to know where it is. So it just as a helpful hint. For me, that's what I do. You do it what.
In the electronic version, the name of it is the date the revision changed, just as a additional piece that we added into what we're doing.
And so from here on out, would we get an updated, like as soon as there's a revision, we get an updated copy electronically?
If
or-
we talk about things that you guys need changed, then
So we don't print thousands of dollars worth of paper. I try to hold the revisions after each meeting, so if there's, as we go, we'll make revisions. So the first revision should come after the next meeting in 2 weeks, unless there's something jumping tonight. And there may be something that you all say, hey, we think this isn't right, or Tim, you're off your rocker. But what I ask, let me go through the presentation, and me, myself and Jen, and then when I get to the end of it, all the questions or any questions you have, but I try to keep this simple so that the taxpayers will understand it. We can walk through this. So if you're ready, I'll go. Good? Jen is gonna lead us through because she's been here longer than me, so she's gonna start, and I'll chime in where we need. So we're just gonna go, what we're gonna do is department by department. You have a master copy here to keep the list straight, and the pages are aligned with what we're gonna do. So what's gonna happen is I'm not gonna go line by line. We don't do a line item budget in South Berwick. What we do is a baseline budget. State Treasurer's Office recognizes 2 forms of budgeting in the state of Maine: line item and baseline. Line item budget is done by usually charter or ordinance for municipal cities where elected officials have the authority to change lines. That's usually like the city of Biddeford's, so forth. In town manager form of governance with a town where it's a town council, we do a baseline budget, means we're voting on the baselines of each department. That's what the taxpayers will vote on. That's what we use. Line items, though, as recommendations, as estimates, basically to get to the baseline. And we follow those relatively dead on close. So that is how we got to the budget. So that said, I'm going to get started, and we're just going to jump. I'm going to explain, or Jen's going to go as we go. I'm not going to talk to you about all the lines. I'm just going to basically, Jen's going to hit on how we crafted the budget and the changes that you see in front of you, the increases, and then we're going to move on to the next department. Tonight is just an overview. So Jen, go ahead.
okay. So we're gonna go right down the list from the summary. The first one is the town council. So just in yellow is the department request. On everyone, they're all the same. On the bottom, I'm gonna have 2 gray boxes. It's gonna show an increase or a decrease of how much and what the percentage is. And the bottom, it's gonna show the salary, how much of that increase or decrease is salary versus operational. There's also gonna be another box that shows how many benefits are paid out on that department's behalf.
So,
Go ahead.
so this is a result of Jack's question when we started talking about labor negotiations. And we talked about, I'd given you a preview. Jack had made the statement that he wanted to see exactly how much of this increase in payroll would have a direct effect on benefits. So kind of for Jack's purpose, as well as the whole council's purpose, we broke that out, Jack, okay?
So
Okay.
for the town council, it has a budget increase of $2,250, which is all salary increases for the town council.
I gave you guys, I did an evaluation. Very few councils are not paid anymore. Most of them get something. I put that in and you'll have the ability to change that. So the next page,
Is town manager, and that has an increase of $123,863. Of that, $124,483 is salaries. The operational expenses actually went down $620. The big change in there is I went from finance director to assistant town manager. That took me out of the finance budget, put me in the town manager budget. Tim's contract, the changes in personnel. So
the new
that's
admin.
in the new admin. Yes, Deanna was in there. We did replace it with Dawn. So the change in personnel for all three of those positions. Had that.
So this went up, you'll see a reduction in the finance budget because her salary came over here. Okay? The next budget is town clerk.
Increase of $20,474. Of that salaries, $20,158. Operating only changed $316. We are increasing tie-ins hours to start working a little bit more, get more trained on taking over for Barbara when that time comes. She'll be working for some assessing, which that's in the assessing budget.
And it was a wage increase. I did a wage study for the clerk's office and there's a wage adjustment in there for the clerk herself. Okay? Next department is gonna be 110-1140 finance.
Decrease of $56,725. All salaries, with my salary being moved out of there. We also have Heather now, who is full-time. She was part-time before. So there's another change in personnel there as well.
Okay.
Next one is our computers. This is just two-way communications. This is our IT. And they're increasing costs, unfortunately.
So their increased costs, both labor as well as equipment and supplies, obviously. There is gonna be a charge in there, not for this budget, for next year. We're upgrading website security, but for this year, we'll be asking to fund that out of the American Rescue Fund monies.
And that's what you see in red. I have it going in and going out so that we know that's something we'll have to address next year as an extra expense.
And that's by contract, correct? This two-way, is that by contract?
I don't believe we have a signed contract with them.
Okay.
It's something that we could switch out if we wanted to.
Okay.
Anytime is my understanding.
Next line, next department is 110-1160 administration.
Decrease of $1,075. No benefits, no salaries. Pretty much stayed the same.
Next department will be 130-1310 tax assessment.
And this is for Verna, our assessor, increase $25,723. Of that, salary is $20,698. We put some time in here for tie-in. She's going to be helping Verna get caught up with her evaluations on the homes and helping with filing.
So in this budget particularly, one of the things
Yes.
I discovered was assessing. So assessing. Oh, I've lost my thought. The assessing has not been kept up to date. We're about 19 years behind. So we could hire a firm to do municipal assessment, hire them to come in and actually do a full reevaluation. The cost of $250,000 to $300,000. However, Verna thought she could probably accomplish it in a period of 3 to 5 years if she started with some. She only works part-time 3 days a week here, so she thought if she could get started, if she got some extra part-time help, and Tyan's looking for some, so on Mondays and Fridays, Tyan would work for her. to get started for the next year. And that would be a savings to us, and then we'll figure out the next move after that with Werner, but we think this is a cheap temporary solution to get us started, so,
We've been bumping along,
yes.
you know, it's conscious, it's not unconscious.
No, I didn't, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm
No,
just
no,
saying.
no, but I just don't want it to go out over the airways. We're 19 years behind, because we're keeping up with
But
it.
we're not-
We're trying to maintain our valuation relative to what the state would see, so we don't end up having to get
Right,
nickeled on reimbursement from the state, so. I
but
don't
it's
know
not that we're
what-
19 years behind, we haven't updated all of it. And the farthest goes back to 19. Better way to say it.
And we are also going to be doing a GIS program that would be on the website for everyone to use and drill down. The different departments can use it as well as residents. So that's something new that we're going to implement. And that's the operating increase.
And not only code enforcement can use that, everybody, a lot of departments could use, fire departments could do it to do a layer map on marking fire hydrants, things like that. So the next department is code enforcement.
Which, as we know, Joe Russell will be retiring in July. And our plan is to hire a full-time code and planning person and a part-time fire chief. So you'll see those changes in personnel on all three of those different departments. Joe will be here for the first month of July. We'll have to do his payouts and whatnot. So I have a line in there for him. And then there is, let's see, an increase in this budget of $12,706. Of that, actually 14,000 is salaries, doing the change in personnel and having a full-time person. We'll be charged 50% to code, 50% to planning.
Did you say a part-time fire chief?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I first got here, the first thing I did, knowing that Joe was leaving, we had 3 or 4 long extensive meetings with Joe talking about times, changes, code enforcement, planning, work time on fire side, expectations of job duties in all areas. And it became very clear that we need a full-time code enforcement planning person. Can't do it part-time, 2 days, 3 days a week there, 2 or 3 days a week fire station. What ends up happening is, as the fire department's getting busier, Joe finds himself leaving more and more on calls during Monday and Tuesday when he's in the office and Fridays. That's where we arrived at that. The next line, the next department is planning. Division 130, 1330.
This department has an increase of $31,818. Of that, $36,868 is for salaries. It's actually an operating budget decrease for contracted services, thinking that if we have someone full-time for planning and code, that hopefully we won't have to use Southern Maine planning quite so much, so we just reduce that a touch, knowing that they'll have more time to do some research in-house.
Is this the budget where comp plan funds are, or is that in a different one?
So
Next is zoning board, 130, 1340.
no change in that $250 if we need advertising.
Next is 140, 1420 emergency management.
We zeroed out this budget. We are in hopes that our new fire chief will take on the emergency management duties to go along with that.
It's not,
That is our plan.
it's not in hopes he's doing.
That will be,
I'm transferring duties from,
yes, sorry.
that's gonna become a combined duty. In most communities today, the fire chief is the emergency management director. They're brother and sister, they live in the absolute same world. And that'll be taking on, we got that salary a little bit, and that'll be referenced in that when we hire that person.
Our current emergency management officer is out of Alfred, or what's the relationship?
No, so Alfred is the county level. That's the county emergency manager. So this is the local officer who does our local plans here for the municipality. And then he works and reports to the county level for the plans, and then they get uploaded to the state and then to the national. Next is the fire department, 140, 1410.
This has a slight increase of $2,205. We were able to reduce the salaries in the training line due to Sanford High doing the tech program and their training to be firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 right while they're in high school. So that training is already completed by the time they want to do anything for the municipality. So therefore, our training expenses have gone down. And that's the change in that. The next one is fire hydrants, same price, almost $300,000. It's been the same price for quite some time.
Folks up to speed on what that is?
That's just the
Jeff and Jessica.
rental of fire hydrants. We pay for the rental of the fire hydrants.
It's called hydrant rental, but what it is actually reimbursement for the availability of fire protection. And by state law, they can, the trustees of the water district can bill us a certain amount for fire protection. So it's not like we're renting the physical hydrants. It just falls into that need.
The next group, if you have, I mean, ask. The next group is emergency rescue, line 140, 1430. This is the contract for York Ambulance Service to provide EMS transport for the town. Jen?
Yes, we have a 3-year contract with them, and we also charge them just over $13,000 for the space that they use in that building. So that nets out to the $298 for this upcoming year. The next is the historic district, and that is a $250 budget, no change. Next is Conservation Commission. Decrease of $100 going by history with their dues. We also pay a subsidiary to the Mount Aguminicus coordinator of the $42.50. Streetlights, those are doing really well. So we reduced that another $6,200.
So just for Jessica and Jeff, if you notice, like prior years, it was like 47-ish thousand. When we replaced all of everything with LED, that caused this big decrease.
Great reduction.
That's exciting.
Very exciting. Yes, I did that project.
Good job.
Thanks.
So, Jennifer, the cost is now completely amortized for the installation of the new fixtures and bulbs.
We paid for it all.
We paid for it outright.
We paid for it outright.
Okay, great.
With the crossing lights, does that fall underneath here, or where does that?
That's,
That's line, that's
those
the,
are solar powered.
right, those are solar powered, and that's in the budget called pain in my behind.
Well, it keeps breaking, I noticed, so I'm
Yeah,
like
we're
wondering-
working
And now the parts are discontinued.
So they were not highest quality, so we're on that. We're working on that today as we speak.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
looking for alternatives and options for
Yeah.
us.
We know they're broken. We're gonna have to replace them is what's gonna happen. They just were not the highest quality.
Which department or division does that? kind of fall
CIP.
under?
That'll come under capital improvement. Next department is 150, 1570, public, streetlights. We just did that. The next department is 150, 1565, community center food pantry.
Food pantry, we bill them for electricity and the phones. We only pay for their sewer, the $200 a year.
Next one is 1560, community building.
This has a slight increase for $1,599. And that is, again, due to salaries for the custodian.
Next is 1550, public works town hall.
So that is for this building, increase $1,937, which again is the custodian cleaning salaries, everything else netted out.
The next line item is 1520, public parks, fields and monuments.
This had a slight decrease of $250.
Next is 1530, town garage.
Increase of $9,225. The bulk of the increase is $6,200 for propane for heating the new garage that we have. And we are upgrading our internet, and there will be a slight increase on the internet as well, which they need for their training, so that they're not buffering. and whatnot. Make their lives a lot easier.
Pages.
The next one is multiple pages.
Yeah.
Police.
Police. The police has an increase of $123,871. Of that, $171 is all salaries. There is an increase in the operating of $15,700, which is 1,000 here, 1,500 there. Some building maintenance changes, but the bulk of it is the union contract, getting their salaries up to where they need to be competitive.
Yeah. Go ahead, we just were talking about.
Sorry, so out of the 123 increase, 108 is salaries, as we're doing with all the other departments. And uniforms.
So one of the changes in law enforcement that we found was we were making them buy all their safety equipment. Their ANSI safety jackets for traffic control, traffic vests, all that stuff was coming out of their clothing allowance. But we can't do that by main labor law. We have to provide safety equipment for the employees. Same with highway, same with the other places. So we just changed a little bit around and I put a budget line in to put in, I think, $5,000. Anyway, we changed it to put in, we'll buy the safety equipment and then they'll buy the uniforms and the stuff they're supposed to, leather, the guns, this stuff. Well, we buy the guns. Just so you know. The next one is 1460 animal control.
This has an increase of $3,388. Of that, $2,938 is for salaries. Operating change, only $450 for some equipment. The next one is dispatch for the police.
Hang on. Yeah, 1470 is dispatch.
This is our contract with Sanford, who does all of our dispatch. It goes up by the CIPW every year, which this year was 6.8%. And then we also have a $4,800 tower charge in here in a two-way contract to take care of the tower. So that's the increases because of the CIPW increase.
When I was on the planning board, there was talks about the tower up off of Wadley Lane being revamped and redone with state-of-the-art EMS stuff. Does that have anything to do with?
Is that the one for AT&T? The AT&T's put that?
Yeah, and they were gonna hook it in with.
So we're gonna take everything off that tower that's there, put it on the new tower.
Okay, and does that have, is that the tower that we're talking about here?
The water district owns the land the tower sits on. So that's who we pay the contract.
Okay.
The water district.
But so it doesn't have any effect on the price of the contract. So this is for the services of dispatch.
Okay.
So that's our maintenance of equipment. That's kind of like the piece we need to talk about. That's on us.
Okay.
That's dispatch. The next one is 1210 employee benefits.
Employee benefits has an increase of $109,600. Of that, a lot of it is main PERS. We had the change in November for main PERS where more people became eligible. We've had change in personnel where staff before were not taking advantage of main PERS and all the new staff have decided to take advantage of the main PERS. Just that change is $49,000.
Tell them what main PERS is.
The main retirement state program pension. For the staff.
State retirement.
So the fact that employees said, oh, I want to take part in that, that we, the town, have to now put in.
Correct.
Okay.
And we match.
It is almost 15% for police, or will be in July, and then it's 10.2% of the rest of the staff. So it is a large benefit for the employees. And there was some people that didn't take advantage of that before then.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so every
it's-
time you change personnel, you have that come up. And
Perry
then,
Perry wasn't in it, and I'm in it,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a cost increase right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Deanna wasn't in it,
And
Dawn is.
Okay.
Dawn is, so there's increase.
We were paying something for Perry's 457 plan, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll see a $25,000 decrease, I'm sorry, on that line.
So that's employee benefits. Anything else under that?
The only other thing I wanted to mention is the difference between the 49,000 I just mentioned. There is increases in people's salaries throughout this budget, which increases all the taxes of, you know, the insurances and whatnot, so. That's the other piece of it.
1510 highway. Highway budget.
So there's two budgets for the highway, summer and winter. It took me a while to like draft, like,
So we were gonna make that go away.
oh, cool, even better.
Okay, so we did combine them in this scenario.
Okay,
So you'll see.
So this is 4 pages. 5 pages, 4 pages.
It should
Three
be,
pages.
it should be 3 pages.
I got some stupid-
Okay, so starts on it. Yep, go ahead.
In this budget, there's an increase of $57,820. Of that $21,020 is salary increases. Operating increase of $19,600. Of that, $14,000 of it is an increase in salt. We are not gonna have any money to carry over for salt this year for the first time in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Morton Salt is actually running out of salt, but our bin is full, so we're in good shape.
so we're zeroing out the 1515, the winter department, to put everything into the 1510.
Correct. Salt will still have its own line.
Yep.
You know, the overtime is all winter.
Yep.
Unless you guys see,
No, that's fine.
the,
Next is the transfer station, 1540.
this budget has an increase,
There's 2 pages.
this budget has an increase of $67,125. Salary change of just under 25,000. Operating increase 42,225. The hauling rate for the hauling the trash away had a 40% increase for hauling. So that's the increase in that.
And we took a short contract on that with the hopes of trying to renegotiate 2 years. I talked with Jen, I was just coming on, we researched every option. There wasn't anything with a time constraint we had. I had a very narrow window to, I think, 30 days, something that it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried working with them for months and to try and get it better and
So I talked to Dwayne,
more in and.
yeah, in North Berwick, and we're gonna work on our next contract, try to be a little bit more jointly connected with him. He's the director of trash recycling stuff for Yoakum County, so he said he'd work with us and help us.
We're still in a locked-in rate for the tonnage portion of it. It's the hauling portion
Right.
that increased.
Okay,
Yeah, just for some background. We formerly did have a joint venture with North Berwick for a roll-on, roll-off truck. It was all under our registration. I think the employee was paid by us, but they chipped in just to split the costs of that. And that truck blew up. So rather than buying a new truck and increasing the burden of having that operator, we chose to go this way. So it was a balancing act. It's
Yeah.
we'll put our money.
Yeah, we did have a long conversation with Jay Ready Marker about that too.
So, I mean, it may be something we want to revisit in years to come, but just for this year, we're at where we're at.
But times change, and
Yeah.
while that was very attractive with the, who's the waste company now? Who's doing it, Holly?
It's Pine Tree Waste, but it's Casella. They have multiple names.
Okay, so the Wells company is no longer engaged.
Some of it goes to Wells. And then, yeah, there's all different places that they bring it to, but our bill comes from Pine Tree.
Okay. Now, is that Westbrook?
I think some goes to Wexford, some goes to Wells, some goes further. They bring it, depending what it is, it goes to different locations.
Next is recreation.
This has an increase of $11,893. Of that, $11,568 is salaries. We did have changes in personnel there as well. As you know, Sharon did retire from her director position. Is still working, teaching some classes, and now we have a rec director and an assistant rec director. A minimum wage increased as well for our camp counselors.
Next is 1610 library.
That has an increase of $4,467. There's actually a salary increase of a little over 7,000, but there's an operating reduction of almost 3,000. Their heating system is still running beautifully. They have had 0 hiccups. So we were able to reduce some of the building maintenance and heating expenses and put that towards getting more books for the community.
There's another back page on that, just so you want to look at the next page is the actual summary. Yeah. Next line is, next tab is 1630 general assistance.
This has a decrease of $10,000. Dawn, our new administrative assistant, will be taking over doing general assistance. Then she will be here to help people throughout the week instead of only 1 day a week.
So it's nice consolidated in-house, made more sense. I looked at it, so that's kind of my mid, but so you know, it's cost savings. The next account. So the social service, social civic contributions, donations.
This has a no change. Donations to the programs.
Next is CIP.
Debt.
That's next.
Debt is next.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So these are the bonds
Oh, yeah.
and loans that we've had. It actually has a decrease of 18,836. As we know, as we get do the payments, the interest goes down. So that because that changed there.
So there's nothing that's ending this year, like that we're wiping out right this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year that we're currently in, yes.
Yeah.
Not next year. Now we have CIP.
Why don't you go ahead and start? We're down to
So for the this first one's compensated absences.
1910.
1910 compensated absences is staying the same, putting a contribution of 50,000 in there. Had a lot of retirements, so that account is dwindling. The next one, we're no longer funding 1915 for transfer station. The following one, 1950 for fire equipment, had an increase of $5,000. And we are on track to order a new fire truck and replace engine 1. We have been talking to the leasing companies. Tim has met with the fire truck companies,
So the pages behind this,
give more detail.
will show you the details of each department as we go through. So if you want to take a second and you can flip, you can look at compensated absences. That what it is. These pages give you essentially a 5-year planning outlook to what we were thinking when we did capital improvement. So capital, compensated absences, you see what we're looking at for this year. You see the 21 and you see the 22 and so forth. Then if you look at the next page, we did this fire equipment. In fire equipment, we currently have a balance of, we will have a balance of 192,520, currently 134,008.
And you'll see right above that, the fund I have highlighted here, that it is the last payment of engine 2 for the fire.
Right. So the truck that they're going to replace is a 1996 pumper truck. The fact is, it's not that it's not usable. The problem actually becomes that their newer truck, which was a 2014 engine 4, was bought as a demonstrator pumper truck. It was a trade show truck. Ended up having a lot of issues, had that pump rebuilt for 8,000. So the longevity of that truck as a frontline first out pumper truck is the problem, becomes more of the problem than the second truck. So to get the longevity of years out of that, this was put into a replacement schedule long before I got here to replace engine 3, which is a 96. Only because it's getting so old, it's getting harder to get parts for. So we'll take it, sell that, and then a new one. The new truck, estimated cost is gonna be probably somewhere around 800 to 900,000. We will do there's a national consortium that we bid on now, that we buy our trucks through, we get the bid prices on. The purchase plan for this truck is to put $200,000 down payment out of capital, finance the rest of about 700,000 or a little less for 10 or 12 years, which we'd obviously bring to you. We met with the finance company, we talked to the bank the other day, we looked at other finance options. We'd finance it for 10 to 12 years, and the new truck would be 18 to 24 months on delivery. Before it can get here, that would become our frontline truck, engine 4, which is now 4 or 5 years old. We're starting to have a lot of problems with it. Would go to the number 2 spot and be the backup, kind of what they call a hydrant truck. Stops at the hydrant, lays a hose from the hydrant to the fire, and provides backup water supply and so forth. So that's where we're going with this. It's an annual replacement program. So the actual cost you would see is that this year we would front 200,000 for the down payment. Then starting for the next 10 years or whatever you agree to for a loan purchase, there would be the monthly payment. So right now, if we looked at with the interest rate, I think we did what for 10 years or 12 years, it was 83 or 85,000 would be the payment. So we'd still be putting an additional 10 or 15,000 in capital reserve for the fire department to move on. If we go with this plan to replace the truck this year, we then went down through, you see the rest of their, we met with the chief, spent a long time talking about future contributions and future major cost factors for the fire department out of capital. The next big purchase would be 200,000 would be air packs, the breathing tanks. Those are a 30-year purchase. They last for 30 years too. We're getting up to that stage, 20, 30 years. If you follow the plan I'll show you later, we were able to take the money from our funding to buy the air packs. So it won't show up here if you approve that purchase. Then the fire department itself, other than that, other than our lease payments, we would have, the next truck doesn't come up till around 2033. So we're in good shape for many, many years after that. So this kind of puts CIP for the fire department to a good place, puts it to rest. So that's what we're thinking on the fire department. Excellent. Next one is 3261 transfer station.
Transfer station equipment, that has no change, staying at $10,000. We have been buying new roll-off containers. We did get some quotes on new glass compactors. One container needs to be taken care of the upcoming year, possible new glass pressure development. And, oh, sorry, I was gonna add one more thing. If we were to go with the new glass crusher, it crushes it so it's like sand. So it has 0 sharp edges, so we could actually be used as fill, so that we could actually use that based in roads, and we could repurpose that. So
Wooden roads?
the glass, if we get a new glass crusher,
Yeah,
it crushes it down to be like sand,
yeah, okay.
so that you can use it as fill.
So you don't have to transport it.
We wouldn't have to pay to get rid of it.
And we could.
We could use it, correct.
You can basically dispose of it.
Would that cause any extra training for like a hazardous waste of dust or anything like that for the people?
It would probably be safer than what we have right now.
Right now is old and it comes out in chunks, they break it up in pieces. So the next line, is that it?
Jeff, there hasn't been a market in glass in years. Yeah, it just evaporated, yeah.
The next one is highway equipment, and we have that staying the same at 125,000. If you look at the TV screen, you can see we have lots and lots of notes of talking with Jay about all kinds of different things and how many years things last.
You'll be pleased to know I eliminated the spacecraft, helicopters, boats, and any other kind of watercraft. We don't need them, so I've made all those cuts ahead of time, so you guys didn't have to, I'm just joking.
The
What's that
line,
booking bill?
the line item for the sidewalk machine, this is the, like, the new sidewalk machine we need to do the sidewalks that we
Yeah.
discussed. Okay.
So what is in here for this year? We would pay, what we decided, he had a whole list of priorities. There's an unknown that I'll talk about in a minute. What we need this year for priorities, I asked him to prioritize everything. He did a good job. They need another 350 pickup truck. We're gonna get it with a plow and a sander. That would actually be Jay's truck. Jay's driving around a little Ford Explorer, and that makes no sense. So he would get that truck where he could actually plow some of the parking lots, drop some sand, and help out with a bunch of other things, as well as help out with the crews and cul-de-sacs and some other little areas. And then the other part of that is a payment for a sidewalk machine, and we do that for 5 years, also out of this year. So what we would do is we would do the 350 pickup with a plow and a sander and a sidewalk machine. We would take a loan out on that. That'd be a debt payment. The used John Deere mower is we need to do the mowing along the sides of the roads. We just don't have a good machine to do it, so a used one with a good sickle blade is about 89,000, and we thought we'd pay the cash for that out of this current 125, and then the rest of it would be bonded for 1 to 5 years, or, for depending on whatever the bond payments were for that for the sidewalk machine. So the truck, Jay estimates the truck is to be around 70,000 with the plow and the sander. Sidewalk machine's around 70,000. So we're looking probably 150, bonding 150,000 or loaning 150,000. So going forward, the unknown, and it looks like it is going to go, if the state was to give us, if we were to end up getting 236 and Route 4, we have to plow that and do winter maintenance on that. We're gonna need what they call a wheeler truck, right? Wheeler truck is, look at the dump truck we have today, it's a single axle truck. Those are just regular dump trucks. The wheeler has 2 tandem axles in the back. It's a 10-wheel truck. Much bigger, much heavier, with a much heavier plow and to carry a lot more sand. To go all the way down 236 and come all the way back. So what the plan would be is next year, we would trade in one of the regular dump trucks to trade in for a newer upgraded wheeler, because that little old trucks will have a hard time plowing. We'll be going back and forth all day trying to plow and sand and salt 236 if it need to go.
And because 236 is wide, it takes 2 on one side and 2 on the way back, just to do one fell swoop. And then that's also includes 101 and 91, which would be.
I know.
It's not happening. It's just not happening.
I understand, sir.
I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go to court. I don't care. It's
I
not happening.
understand, sir. However, they did say that for every road mile they have to pay us, give us money. So our road revenue bond or road revenue that we get right now, we get about what,
63,000.
63,000. We figure would go up to probably about,
More than double.
140, 150,000. That doesn't help the pain of having to go and buy a new dump truck
Yeah.
next year with a big wing and a big. So to give you an idea, what we look at when we buy new dump trucks right now, they're around 125, 140,000 with a new plus single axle. A wheeler is 210,000 with a plow set. That's the difference. So it's considerably a lot more expensive.
And the road, they've been given a lick and a promise the last 10 years. They're doing maintenance overlays, skinny mix. It's all popping off. The road needs to be rebuilt. It's $1 million a mile.
236 is being repaved this year.
But that's another skinny mix they're gonna put on top of it.
Yeah, that's right. As skinny as they can make it.
And it's election year paving. It makes it black and it makes it, oh, it's great.
The DOT said Jack was gonna be that thick.
Yeah, but
I hear you, but I don't know how, I don't know that we can find it. I asked, they said, nope. We're gonna take it.
So that's an unknown that doesn't necessarily impact us for FY 22, 23 that we're talking about right now.
No, I'm just giving you,
It's a potential for next
right,
year.
I'm just giving you a preview so you understand budget steps going forward, what we might have to spend, keeping in mind this year, if we gotta do something next year.
When will we know?
We're supposed to know, I think, by the end of the summer.
Yeah, I'm hoping,
Just some history on that. I mean, DOT was jonesing to turn over the bypass bridge down by the traffic circle for years. For years and years and years. It was an old rigid frame bridge, and they stopped the urban compact on the circle side of that bridge. They wanted to give Kittery that bridge so bad. This is what they needed to do. They needed to build a new bridge. And Kittery was able to resist it. And finally, DOT stepped up and, rebuilt the bridge. I'm telling you, it's big in a boat.
I understand. And just so you know, I know where Jack's coming from. When I took over in Rangeley, we had been given a road, the same thing by DOT, was in complete shambles.
Give it a road.
And we were negotiated, it was an ugly negotiation, lawyers got involved. We spent $60,000 on negotiation fees with attorneys, I knew the state, that we ended up rebuilding the road for 1.2 million, we had to pay 200,000, the state paid $1 million before we took it over. It was a nightmare mess, it just became it's not a fun thing to do, but we'll have to deal with it when it comes, so that's down the road. That's Public Works. Next is police equipment. Go ahead, Jeff.
Police equipment has a reduction this year of $38,000 due to the ARPA funds that we've been talking about. We'll be able to buy the new cruiser and equip it this year. So we did keep $10,000 going in there because we will need to get new software. All police stations within 10 years will have to spend about $100,000 for software to be compatible. Talk to each other. So we're saving
It's
money.
just
Going
back
back to
off.
fire equipment, excuse me, Tim, but going back to fire equipment, are those ARPA funds available for that need we have right now?
Yes, well,
For the air packs.
I'll show you when we get there. We've got a list, we broke up the opera funds, so we're gonna use the opera funds to pay for all the air packs to take that off the CIP for 30 years. So that's 200,000. And so we could buy fire trucks with it, you either buy a fire truck or you buy air packs, but one way or the other, you gotta pay for one of them.
We also need repeaters on top of the tower because they're old and need to be replaced. So that's another piece of the ARPA funds for both police and fire.
So in this,
That'll be Tuesday's conversation.
yeah, that's coming up. We,
How these systems,
what's that?
good show, go ahead.
No, I'm just, we'll certainly give you any information you want tonight. I want to make sure you guys have everything. So, police department, continue, go ahead with the police department. Was there anything else?
No, so that was looking at this year. So then we just continue on with buying new cruisers every year. So just we get a break from the 1 year because of that.
So, one of the things I'm gonna look at, and I don't, so this corporation, it's called HGAC, Houston Galveston Area Consort Authority. What they did is it's kind of like GP Cog or York County. They got together, and so now what they do nationwide bidding for municipal services. And what they do is they bid every year on, 50 Pierce fire trucks, 200 police explorers, and they bid on a very plain Jane. And they say this is, so they get the bid price, they do all the work for us. Then what we do is we join the consortium. And we can buy from them at the bid price, instead of us going out to bid and buying it for 31,000, we can buy them for 25,000 because they bought 200 of them or 2,000. They have a lease program where you can lease police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, and if it's buying 2 new fire trucks, they don't have the money to pay for them. They're leasing them for 7 years, and at the end of 7 years, they can turn in and get new ones. And they just adjust the contract, lease contract. A lot of places are doing the police cruisers now. What they do is for the road patrol cars, not detectives, chief's cars, those things. What they would do is we get 3 police cars. They do a 3-year lease payment. So maybe it's $30,000 hypothetically. We would put that in CIP and pay that $30,000. We have the 3 new cruisers on the road for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, we update the contract. Maybe it goes up to $10,200 a year for They take those those cars that we've had for 3 years, they drive them away, they bring us 3 new cars. We put our lights on and the antennas and the stickers, and we drive them for 3 years. The beauty of it is, at the end of the 3 years, we either decide to buy them for a set, purchase price, just like a regular lease, buy them outright, or we turn them in and get brand new ones. The beauty behind that, for a lot of places that have ambulances, a lot of fleet of police cars, and so forth, you always have modernized, safe equipment under you guys, under the seats of police officers. So I don't know that it's a good program, it'll work here, but I'm certainly gonna look at it. I haven't had the time to do it yet, being new, but for next year, I'll have a proposed idea for you. It may or may not work.
System of buying a car every year. Then, turning them out, whether it goes to Mower or whatever. That's worked very, very well. In terms of, we got out of it, 1 year, the budget was tight, so we bought half a car and it messed it up. We paid, we took another car out of the loop, running older equipment, and then we got back on to, purchasing a new car every year. And that, it seemed to work.
I just want to give you, look at the options, and if it works, it doesn't work, if it doesn't work, it does, it's great. So again, this is your budget, whatever you decide to do with it, I'm happy with it. Please, anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Next is 3271 town buildings.
So this past year, we did the food pantry roof, and the next year, no increase, still 22,500. And we plan on starting to look at developing and planning for our new town hall.
Next on that is 3211, is road improvement and repairs.
Why are these out of sequence?
It's,
You guys out, everybody else is out of sequence?
no matter.
3211, right?
3211,
Yeah.
Roads?
yes.
Okay. I just did mine by numbers. So I probably messed up the sequence that you had, but just,
Yeah, you messed up then.
yeah, no. Okay.
3211 roads. Go ahead, Jen.
Every year, the contribution goes up a little bit by the amount of interest that we saved on the road bond. We have been spending about $400,000 to $450,000 a year for road repairs. And that will continue forward until fiscal year 28. We'll have the full 700 to spend on roads because the road bond will be paid off. And we do have a list of roads that Jay has as a priority for the upcoming year that we priced out with Libby's.
We sat down, we went through a 5-year road replacement program, road repair based on priority of travel use, whether they were main roads, side roads, back roads. So yeah, we did put that in and we have done that. Jay has his thumb really good on it. I've been out looking twice. One of the challenges out of this, we're gonna have to do some sidewalk stuff, coming up. One of the things that I hope through the comprehensive plan, and when I have more time, when I have lots of time, I want to really look at, even if it's just basic revitalization of downtown, and the possibility of getting grants to start thinking about sidewalk renovations for the downtown district. That includes safety, ADA compliance, and those things. So that is on my priority list, but it's not today. That's when I get settled a little more down the road. I think that's a good long-term project that me and Jen will tackle. It is on our radar, but that's tomorrow's stuff.
Possibly keeping another even tips on, what's another option?
Absolutely. 3110,
Office equipment. We have been buying some stuff this year, new desks, laptops, and chairs and whatnot. And that amount is staying the same at $15,000. And we just have, possibly a new copier in 2 years, just keeping things up to date in the office.
as we move to get new furniture currently right now that we have to get to be ADA compliant for the employees, we are buying furniture that has a long lifetime shelf life that we'll take with us when we move. So we're buying good stuff, quality stuff that's custom made here in Maine that can be transported to a new building. And reused. So we're not wasting money.
Excellent.
Records preservation, 3271.
Barbara is taking the old books in the vaults of deaths, marriages, births, and we're just picking a couple every year and getting them bound into nice books. Small amount staying the same at $1,200.
Comp plan update.
Comp plan. You guys picked Southern Maine Planning.
Which number?
3910. 390, 3910.
We have 13,736 in there now. You picked Southern Maine Planning, won the bid for phase 1 and 2. So we added the $15,000 in there to cover the cost of the proposal given to get the work done that kept them to do. Only leaving us $250 at the end of that year. Oops, I have some other things. I don't get it. And then if you wanted to do anything further with other phases, we have to adjust that.
Looks low to me. It's, you know, phases 3 and 4 are gonna come right on the heels of that. I think it's gonna be the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Do we have an amount to put in for that? Did they give you any idea of what
No,
they thought
no,
that
we
would be?
left it out on purpose, but that's gonna be negotiated and, you know, we just need to know, you know, to throw some sort of a placeholder in there.
Not for this year, but for the next, not next year, but the year after,
No.
next year.
Yeah, this,
Fiscal 23.
you know, the 13 and change will get us started. And hopefully it won't, but that amount will be due just about, I think, in July or August. So it doesn't leave us anything to go ahead with the next phase.
So we have 15,000 going in,
Right, and they'll just pay for phases 1 and 2.
correct?
Yeah,
But that's just inventories and surveys and things like that. And then the real rubber hits the road after that. And so,
And that'll come the next budget year.
no, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be in 22, 23.
That's what I mean. It comes in this next budget that we're budgeting doing right
This
now.
budget right here.
Okay, so we'll just have to change that amount when we go forward.
When we
That's
know.
no problem. When we get to this section, we can,
So I'm gonna make that pink. That's kind of my thing, the pink that needs to be reviewed.
I let her pick the colors.
It stands out to everybody. John James always liked the pink too.
And then then the last one is
Pedestrians.
pedestrian safety, 9920, I guess. And that is, we put 2,000 into that.
9920. So what that is.
the detailed sheet that we have doesn't have a second number on
It
it.
says 310.
310.
Yeah,
Doesn't have
310 dash,
doesn't have a,
blank, blank, blank.
So it is 9920.
Capital Reserve Pedestrian Safety and blue at the top left.
yeah, there's no, the number here is on the sheet says 9920. but- So we'll just, and we put 2,000 into that.
Yeah, but the 9920, if we look at the detailed sheet, is repeating for everyone where it just
Oh,
transfer out, that's not,
Okay,
Oh,
so we got a
so
number
it's
for
really
that.
not enough, need a number for it.
yeah.
I don't off the top of my head. I made that pink. I'll make sure I update that.
Okay, she'll get an update number. Okay. So there's that, threefold. Any other? That's it, right?
That's all I have for that. And then we have revenue.
Right.
It's the other big sheet that we have. Revenue has an increase of $373,350. Of that, $325,000 is increased in revenue sharing. We hope that it will stay that way. Just new people coming in. What it's highlighted in pink is the $700,000 for the undesignated. We've done that the last 2 years in a row. I left that pink because that could go up or down depending, I hope it will go down, but with the mill rate and what we decide, we can contribute more, we can contribute a little bit less. So that's a little bit of an unknown right now. I have it in there as a placeholder.
And what does the 700,000 annually go to? It's within the budget to pay for debt service,
No, it goes to roads.
roads? Okay.
Well, it's 450 to roads.
Yeah.
then
Okay, so that's, so for Jeff and Jess, So what happens is when we have extra revenue money each year, that undesignated, the money on extra revenue, if there's any extra revenue, it goes into the undesignated fund balance, It gets, after the audit, it gets put in there. And so how much did we put in last year?
There was almost $1 million. When our expenses come in low, that extra money gets put into the undesignated. It nets out with the over revenue and the under expenses, both put money in that bucket in the middle, which is undesignated. So we should be putting at least something back in there every year, otherwise we're not budgeting properly.
And how much do we currently have in undesignated? Rough number.
5.5 million.
The undesignated surplus, for what you would know it, is our rainy day fund.
Right.
And so we kind of borrow off that each year with the 700,000. But then the next budget, as we put in, after all the revenues are done, and extra revenues, and we put in extra money, it goes back in it kind of, just so you know, it gets replenished. Within that is an operating, there's a statute by law as well as policy for the town. We have to maintain 16.5% of our operating budget for emergency cash fund, which is
Roughly $3 million.
$3 million. So we could never drop below that. And to take money out of the undesignated surplus, that's that special account that only the taxpayers can, we have to go to the taxpayers for that. That has to be a warrant question. So that's not anything we can just put a little pause on real quick and say, oh, let's just, but what has happened is the council has been recommending every budget to use 700,000 to help offset the tax rate, so the increase is so high. So we put that number in as a consecutive number, just keep continuing what you guys have been doing, okay?
That's like a lever we can adjust and stuff.
Correct.
Correct. Yep, that's why I left it pink.
Yeah.
Jeff and Jessica, the council can decide to spend up to $1 less than 10,000.
One time.
Well, you know, different appropriations you can do that, but
Okay.
anything 10,000 and over, special time.
Okay.
Unless we have it on the warrant at the regular time.
So, right. Okay.
The other increase was vehicle excise tax went up $50,000 in this budget.
So one of the things that I just got off the internet today, talking to some of the other managers, Jim Bennett from Biddeford sent us out a kind of a red flag email saying, just be aware, watch your increase next year for excise tax revenue. Because what they're beginning to see is as there are no new cars on the market, people are buying less new cars. So we cognitively aware of that. That I think is it's a good number. I think it's extremely low or fairly low. I think we're very safe with that increase.
No, that's really it for revenue. It's pretty much staying consistent.
Philosophically, what we've done over the last 10 years at least is to project expenses at, 2% higher than what the actual would be. So, and we've been pretty successful in returning 2 to 3% of the expenditure side to undesignated. And there's been windfalls the last couple of years. Traditionally, good budgeting would have your revenues lower than actual, so you project that lower. So that gives you another bump. What might be able to reserve into undesignated, and that can help fund the programs we have going, like the road bond and things like that. So that's kind of the general philosophy of it. Revenue's low, expenses a little bit high, and then hopefully we don't have any surprises. Is that kind of where you're going on this, Tim?
Absolutely.
Correct. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, that was perfect. Thank you. On the last page?
Yep.
Okay, so if you take out the big last page, here's the secret. This is what we want to get to.
It has everything all in it.
Yeah. So this is
The other big long one.
this big last page right here. Yep, this page right here. This is a summary of the whole budget with all the increases. Starting at the top, colored orange box in the top. This is all dependent on the council, you folks approving the new contract as we've talked about when we get there, and the opera expenditure approvals. If those were done, this is a hypothetical. To answer Jack's questions that he had, the wage increases and adjustments will actually total out 245,000. Increased benefits due to those adjustments are 58,000 for a subtotal of 303. I got a reference from the local other town budgets, what they're actually asking for increases, because I wanted to see if I was lost my mind, because you think that as a manager, what's going on? North Berwick is going up 520,000, Berwick is up 600,000, and Elliott is up 563,000. So no, we're not. We're right in the ballpark of what they're doing. They're all doing the same thing we're doing. They're all making adjustments for the consumer price index that went up 6.8% this year. They're all taking this year to adjust for our employees. I do not think we will not, I don't think, absolutely no, this is a one-time budget increase for us. Okay, next year we'll be looking at a much different number, basic increases. We'll have to carry a new police officer position. In the salary, in the opera funds is to fund a new police officer one time this year. And fund the police crew, fund the air packs for the fire department, police cameras, different stuff. We'll get to that at another time. If we took all that and applied the 700,000 and everything else, the amount and the opera funds, as everything stands today, the amount needed to be funded by growth increased value taxes would be $148,250. That's what we have to do as taxes. No. However, that includes the undesignated, taking 700 from the undesignated account. So the actual budget is up 521,565, little green box on the left, which represents a 6.74% increase. Again, 300,000 of that is wages and salary. For the, what they call the LD1, the LD1 is increased revenue limit. We can only increase our budget so much by state law before you have to ask the taxpayers to go over that. It's a very complicated formula, and I do not know it off the top of my head. I'd have to get it if you wanted it. Yeah.
It is worksheet.
So, but Jen did the worksheet, and to stay under that, we are $1,106,973 below the LD1 requirement, so we're good there. So what we need to fund out of all this tonight, if we did it all, if you said, yeah, pass this, Tim and Jen, we're missing $148,250 out of the $500,000 budget increase.
Sorry, so we're getting from the 500, the overall increase from 521,000. We're getting from that to the 148,000 with like the ARPA.
There would be
Increased
the
revenue.
opera funds,
Increased revenue ARPA.
the opera funds, the increase in revenue.
Okay.
Apply the increase in revenue to that.
Mhm.
And then, once we apply the increase in revenue, we do the opera funds. The only factor left to pay to we would need to rate tax on is 148,215 now.
Sorry,
We
how much
would-
is the ARPA? How much is it?
Almost 800,000.
Thank you.
However, I gotta make it specifically clear, we cannot use the opera funds to reduce taxes.
Yes.
We can use the opera funds to buy municipal equipment and fund positions due to increase in COVID responses and other, which we have had. So we can do, Berwick's doing a police officer, we're doing a police officer, Elliott's buying a police cruiser, we're buying a police cruiser. It's a one-year gift. Next year, we'll have to fund that, but we won't have all these other salary increases next year. So the piece we're missing right now, the budget, those numbers big. If we needed to do it tonight, we need to fund $148,215 to the taxpayers. Now, if you add in, as we talked about at the beginning of the night on that formula sheet I gave you, if you talk about the projected
Property valuation.
And growth.
property valuation and growth, just from new growth alone, Bernie gave me a $10 million to $12 million number, just in new growth, not new valuation growth. So if we take that number and I multiply it as the factor for what we have for a mill rate, that comes up to just that alone is about 187,000. So I believe, standing here tonight, to tell the council for the first time ever that I think we can increase services, increase equipment, increase payroll to the employees, And I'm pretty sure we can do it and still reduce the mill rate. Which if we can do this, we should run away and say, yeah, we have.
But while we're ahead,
There, so I'm projecting tonight that with this budget, unless we make drastic changes, we have to fund 148,215, which more than that, I believe, will be covered by revenue growth. Which means we'll come in at 0% increase in taxes. So now I'll open it up to some questions and see where we're at.
For the ARPA is great. But what would our, if everything stayed the same, what would having that new police officer and what the ARPA funds would do for us this year? What increase would we incur next year? So we are
So
going.
next year, you're gonna incur, you'll incur your salary and benefits, so you're looking probably, probably 60, 70,000.
I had $75,000 in here
Probably
for the gross
75,000.
salaries.
It's not like we're gonna go to taxpayers next year and say, hope you enjoyed your zero
No,
next year. It's
no,
6.
and so next year, the things you won't have next year, you won't have big spikes in, and you won't have the big salary, because all the salary increases will go back to CPI cost of living, the 2%, 3%, whatever we have. You won't have the big hit on benefits because all the people that have joined the PERS system will already have been here and will be here next year, so we'll budget that. So really next year, the budget goes back to this. And this year was because we had the anomaly of, increase in CPI, increase in inflation, to get the transfer station workers up. And essentially what we did is we did wage adjustments on all non-union employees, the janitors, the workers at the transfer station, the highway group, those folks. Union is in there. We've been talking about that, you know what that is. And upper management, we kept at a 4% increase for upper management across the board. So I didn't make that up. I talked to other managers, and that's what they were doing across the board, different places, Elliott and so on. My mind's boggled in the fact that I can come here and tell you that the municipal expense budget will go up 500,000, but we can provide a taxpayers decrease. And I think that's going to be important this year to sell to the taxpayers that we are looking at some kind of a reduction as best we can, at least at a minimal, no increase. Because one of the issues they're facing is, CMP just increased the delivery service an 80% charge, which I'm not done. I'll be talking with your wife about state representatives, PUC handing them off an 80% increase. That not only burdens, people, it burdens us. So I think we've got to be as cognitively aware of that. We made a lot of strides in this budget. From day one, when we came in, it was a lot higher. We worked out of making cuts. So I think when we're all said and done, we can walk this budget to the taxpayers at the town meeting in May with a 0% increase or less. I'm confident.
yeah, so I think that will just be, like you said, an important piece for us to just be able to tell that story pretty succinctly about how, yes, this is on the warrant, it'll show an increase in 521,000, but there's a lot of other factors in play that will influence the tax rate, and just make sure people are aware of that story.
Questions, thoughts on this budget? Anything you need answers on
All
tonight?
things equal, what I would, rather than anticipating where we are in revenue, and that whole crystal ball, right now, if you, I can use your example, if you had to pass this today, I'd take 148,000 out of the designated, apply that to this budget, make up the shortfall. Then, if we're fortunate and projections for revenue come in, we get it on the backside, that goes back in the designated. That's just another method of funding.
That's your call. That's how you tell me how you want to do it. So this is my proposed budget on how, there's two parts to this. Jen worked on today's operations. I worked on tomorrow and the future. So we have what's in front of us right now, essentially a good preview of today to the next 5 years. What we're gonna be doing for purchases and how we're gonna run the town. The big increase here, one of the big pieces is we need to put another law enforcement officer on the street for traffic control. Problem I have, we can't put law enforcement officers on the street. Can't fill the positions we have. So that's gonna be the next important piece. The two pieces of this, the next two pieces going forward, which we'll talk about Tuesday night, will be contract negotiations, moving forward with that, and you approving the opera fund expenditures. Included in the opera funds, I've met with the water district, sewer district, and I'm gifting them, it's really what it is, gift, because the money came to us. But I met with them, and along with all the other expenses, we're gonna give them $125,000 flat across the board. They're both very happy with that, said, thank you so much, great. It was the fairest way to do it. We looked at funding projects, and we had to talk about accountability, we had to talk about if we did it, funded a direct project, best thing is to just give them that, they're gonna give us a sheet telling us what they're gonna apply the money to. We'll do that for the audit. So they're happy. We take some big capital express items off the capital budget, the air packs, the fire and police radio repeaters that they need for the communication towers. And this moves the town forward for the next 5 years at a 0% increase of tax. Questions, thoughts, or ideas?
Jeff, I have an answer to your question with the ARPA money for next year. What we're covering is the police officer, the cruiser, and computer security for $117,000.
So that would be the total increase in the budget next year that we would have this year.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just wanted to have it be awesome this
Mhm.
year, and then we're shocked to have
Of course.
it next year, you know.
Did you say that included the cruiser?
Yeah.
But the cruiser, isn't that, are we just gonna pay for that outright?
So in the ARP money, we're gonna buy the cruiser this year, so we had a reduction in capital cost. Some of that reduction was so that we could buy the cruiser this year.
Okay.
Are we still carrying the investigator?
She's done. The investigator is,
Yes. Detective.
The detective position.
We've been carrying that for 3
Remember we
years.
had
Yes,
that-
they're going to fill that.
yes.
They're going to
So
fill that.
this new officer is in addition to. the
Correct.
detective.
This would be the 11th position, or the 12th position. 12, we got 11 now. It'd be 12. And his position would specifically be, he's coming on, just so you know, and this is at a request of the chief. Myself, we talked about it, the acting chief. Is that he's gonna be basically a primary traffic officer. He'll work 2 day shifts and 2 evening shifts. And be out on the roads doing traffic speeding control. That's the biggest, fastest way to get impact with this.
So we can sell that.
Yeah.
Everybody clamoring for us.
So my goal tonight was to give you, the council, an absolute 100% overview of expenses, revenues, and how to fund it. And then we can come back and make any changes the next 2 weeks from now, if you're in agreement with that, if you want to do it, or how you want to do it.
One of the things that I don't see popping up here, it seems like it's a gray area, is the town forest. Who actually has responsibility for that? Because I know the Conservation Commission have sort of taken it over, but it gets really grown over, and if the Conservation Commission isn't managing that, it doesn't get done. I personally, and it's a drop in the bucket compared to whatever it is, would prefer not to see the budget for the Conservation Commission get cut for that reason. And also for the sake of, I personally think that we're a little bit at risk out there. There's a lot of the paths that head right close to that water, and I think we're really just dodging a bullet that people don't know what's out there, so they're not able to get hurt because they're not out there. But
I
just a little
don't have
concerned
any
about it.
knowledge of the forest.
Who owns the land?
It's on the conservation's sheet.
So it's not late.
It's on the conservation sheet.
Yeah, it's showing $300 for town forest and other conservation programs.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and actually,
But
it's been 10, 12 years since we did the last timber harvest out there. The trees are coming up, and so it might be, Dave Parker was a forester from North Berwick that management of that cut, and so it might be time to talk to Dave and see what the next phase might be, and then if that cut goes ahead, there was a return based on the stumpage. You know, Dave gets paid, logger gets paid, but then there was a return to the town of, I think it was like $75,000, something like that. Just for residual profit, if you will, as a result of selling lots.
What was his name?
Dave Parker.
But I think, like I said, I think it's a gray area as far as, are we, the town council, managing the town forest and where that sits in conjunction with the conservation commission, because I feel like they are, it's kind of their management, you know, as it stands now, and doing a cutout there would be problematic for the conservation commission. However, I do see the benefit.
What will define the problem?
They'd be against it, just flat out against it. But just with who makes up the conservation currently.
Yeah, because
But, so I,
because the land is in timber management right now.
Yeah.
So,
no, I'm just saying, I'm more concerned about, again, this is anything budget wise. I'm more concerned about, like, when I walked out there before the snowfall, it was all icy. And I knew where it was, and I'm thinking, you know, people walking out there, it's looking to fall right into the river if they weren't careful. And I'm concerned about that, and I'm looking at trying to manage that myself, and I'm not sure of the implications to that. But it's something that we might end up thinking about, talking about later, I guess, too. You know,
it's blazed super well for what it's worth, like
Yeah.
I'm like, this is.
yeah,
blazed,
it's a great resource. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see it on here, so thank you. So,
Anything else? So you got the overview, take the budget sheets, take them both, go home, think this through. See what you're thinking, what you want to change. We'll be back in 2 weeks, is that right?
Well, we have it here for next Thursday. If we want to change that, because we have a council meeting next Tuesday.
Yep.
And do we want to meet again on Thursday? Do we want to wait till the next Tuesday, 15th? You guys have something going, right?
That's been moved,
Okay.
but do you guys have a preference? Do you prefer to meet next Thursday or do the following Tuesday? I don't care.
Tell me what you want, and we'll schedule. We have it right now is next Thursday. And then we have one on, that must be 15th.
15th.
I'm gonna put out that we do it on the 15th, 2 weeks.
I
On
think
Tuesday,
we're
the
open
15th.
at night.
Yeah, because we're open that night now.
Okay.
Okay.
That's an off week. So we can, so we'll meet on the budget again on March 15th at 6:30.
Okay.
Cool.
Perfect. In the meantime, if you have questions, or concerns, or thoughts that I can help you answer, give me a call or Jen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if not, then certainly, right.
We just have our regular council meeting next week. So we'll just be next Tuesday, then the following Tuesday we'll have budget. Correct.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you. I was glad that we had you guys presented it differently, but the documents are similar. Like, look the same. That
Right.
was helpful for me to follow.